Well, the primary requirement is to determine what is the operation that the owner has, what types of equipment does he have that he uses to support his operation. Usually in light industrial, there's a shop or warehouse or fabrication area. There's usually an office support area associated with the owner's space. Obviously, he has to manage the operation. But what's key to understand is exactly what his day-to-day operation is. Is he fixing trucks? Is he fixing cars? Is he fabricating equipment? Is he fabricating products, etc.? And then the natural question that follows after that is that what type of equipment does the warehouse or shop have to have in it to allow him to do his day-to-day operation? Light industrial, that can be anywhere from portable cranes to just workbenches, tool shops, tool areas, parts supply, so in warehouse items. And then obviously we have to understand, how does he then receive items relative to his operation? Is it like in the Superior Engine project, which is basically a diesel engine repair shop? It's like an auto repair shop. Basically, they bring in their trucks in there and have to be able to pull it in. So we need to understand how that is, because in that case, there were probably 15 overhead doors, because basically they pulled in vehicles in the entire facility and then repaired them and then took them back out. If you're doing a warehouse operation, there might not have, or you'd have very limited overhead doors or access to that other than for receiving and shipping. When we understand what kind of equipment or operation he has, we have to determine how high of a building he needs in terms of clearances and his ability to load or stack or store, which may be higher than just person height. When we did again, I'll use Superior Engine, he needed a crane, a small crane, it's called a jib crane, to be able to lift a motor out of the truck. Well, it turns out that in order to do that, we needed to figure out exactly how high he could lift the motor to get it out of the truck, and then figure out how tall the crane was, and that actually determined the height of the shop. The other parts that are key in warehouse and light industrial is, once we know what the operation is and the size of the facility is, we need to understand how that affects the building design, and probably more in particular, like fire protection or fire sprinklers would be required in the building, and or any kind of fire rating of the construction relative to that. The very first one is programming and planning. Programming and planning is when you determine what the owner's operation function is, employees, etc., which I described earlier, and that allows us to start creating a floor plan or a layout, etc., for preliminary concept for the owner to look at. And then if there's entitlement, we include that as a phase, because that has to be done up front, and that would be whether it has to be approved by the towns or variances, whether it's Board of Zoning Appeals or Plan Commission or whatever steps that town may have. And then once the program and planning is put together, the other thing that we offer is putting construction budget estimates. And these are typical for any project. The schematic design basically confirms the elevations, the floor plan, the layouts, and then once that's approved, and then heights of the building, then it's design development, and then construction documents, and then into construction. Well, for us, it's project manager, project architect, and a small project, that might be all you have, at least architecturally. But then you're going to have structural engineer, you're going to probably have a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer. So even though they might not all be working on it full time, and then you have a civil engineer, so you probably have on any project, at least six people, multiple disciplines working on a big project. Well, you had multiple engineers, you had multiple architects. I bet the team was probably 20 people. who are producing the project overall. Those projects typically have a very unique zoning requirement in terms of towns, municipalities, counties, whatever. And the very first thing, if it's a new project and the proposed new site, the very first thing we do is determine will the town or municipality allow that to be done per the zoning. If not, we advise and we review all the zoning ordinance and requirements, and then we advise the owner if he has to make any requests for changes in zoning, etc., because that all affects the project schedule. That actually happened again. I keep using Superior Engine, but we did that too. We did his presentations to Plan Commission, to Board of Zoning Appeals. We had to combine lots, which required us to appear in front of the municipality for that. The other thing is, which sort of goes with the entitlement, and a lot of architects don't do, but we always look at, goes back to the municipal approval of the project. Industrial facilities in particular, because they pay taxes not only on their facility but on their equipment, is you can request tax abatements on both your building and your equipment. Typically, we did that actually. Again, I use Superior Engine. We got a 10-year. The owner got a 10-year tax abatement on his property taxes on the project. I've seen other industrial clients seek that on their equipment, because if you're spending millions of dollars on your equipment, you also pay property taxes on that too. The building is only it's a piece of the overall project, because typically when you have semi trucks or trucks coming in and out of a site, the area required to maneuver, to bring in, to ship, to park, and maneuver trucks, etc., significantly add the required size of the parcel or the size of the acreage that the project sits on. Because if you can get a building on it, but if you can't pull a truck up to it or pull it out of it, it's not going to do them any good. So we evaluate literally the flow of that affects his operation external to the building, including trucks, shipments, deliveries, etc., and stuff like that. Well, we've done renovations in industrial buildings, which meant the existing operation had to be maintained while that construction was going on. We had to work with the owner to segregate the construction area, not interrupt his day-to-day operation, and also arrange for how we would do construction staging, that's another thing people, especially if it's a renovation. If I have a bunch of subcontractors and they have trucks and employees are coming in, contractor employees, those are normally not accounted for if it's an existing operation. So we have to have an area set aside for us. That's just close coordination with the owner in terms of determining how we're not going to disrupt his operation.